If you've been a part of the anime community for some time now, then you'd have heard of the name Monogatari Series, thrown around, often referring to a seemingly absurdly convoluted series that is loved by many. And if not, that's your quick summary of the community's thoughts regarding Monogatari. The Monogatari series is one that consists of 9 seasons, 3 movies, and 12 short half-episodes. Although it isn't nearly as long as other franchises such as Gundam, Pokemon, or Fate, this is a hefty length for a series you actually have to focus on to understand. Even now, after having watched the series twice, I still find myself noticing little details within clips of the show that had completely flown past me previously. Thus, the series is far too long and complex to be covered in a singular short video such as this. But in this video, I do want to cover some of the ideologies portrayed by one of my favorite characters within Monogatari, Kaiki Deishu. Kaiki Deishu may be my favorite character and he may be brilliantly written alongside the rest of the cast, but those two things don't make him a good person. Kaiki lies. We all do. But Kaiki's entire being is built upon his lies. He lies, uses people, and takes advantage of anything that he can benefit from. Yet, Kaiki, as terrible of a person as he is a man who is true to his word. Although he lies, that doesn't mean that he goes back on his promises, it's just that he doesn't make them very often. He is a character that lies to anyone if it means he can benefit from it, so why? Why would he keep true to his promise when he prides himself in having no pride? Why would a man who doesn't like doing anything unbeneficial continuously check on a girl that wants him dead? Why would a man who values money over anything else do things for dirt cheap? Why? Because despite all of the unforgivable things he's done, he's a caring man. A man with no pride cares for others, looks out for his late friend's child, checks up on a girl he once dismantled the life of, and deceives people into bettering themselves. Now, he isn't a character like Naofumi who is seen as terrible but is in actuality a sweetheart. No, Kaiki is a lying piece of garbage, or at least he tries to be. We've established that Kaiki lies. He lies not only to those around him, but even himself. His lies aren't simple lies, but ones that define his entire character. He lies to those around him, to himself, and even to the audience within his head through his own thoughts. His persona of a lying con man is one that he almost fabricated for himself to, as I mentioned earlier, deceive people by becoming the fake and doing it in a way he knows how. Hitagi Senjugahara, the girl that Kaiki ruined the life of, was actually saved by his web of lies. Hitagi's situation was one that was terrible even before Kaiki had intervened. Hitagi had developed a dangerous disease which took an extensive amount of surgery to live through. Despite her survival, her mother still took refuge in a cult in an attempt to rid herself and her family of these bad occurrences. This cult, however, ended up being the core reason as to why the Senjugahara household deteriorated. Her mother lost the entirety of the money the family had to the cult, and to add on to that, a high-ranking member within the cult attempted to sexually assault Hitagi, to which Hitagi, rightfully so, defended herself. Her mother, however, took the side of the attacker, leaving the family as a whole, as well as a large amount of debt that they now have to pay off. Now, how does Kaiki play into this? Kaiki was the person who drove Hitagi's mother away. He offered to help the family with their issues, but he in actuality deceived and scammed the family, which resulted in the mother's leave. Because of this, Hitagi hates, if not even despises, Kaiki. She blames him for the splitting of her family and has hated him since then. And he's let this misunderstanding continue, likely because he thinks that it's best for her to grow thinking that it was solely his fault rather than her own. To top this all off, in Monogatari Season 2, Ononoke mentions that Kaiki deceived and dissolved a cult within the same town that Hitagi grew up in. To this he responds that he was just passing by. Other than these two occurrences, Kaiki is often seen to check up on Hitagi despite his awareness of her hatred towards him. And not only her, but also Kanbaru Suruga, the daughter of his late friend, another person who was taught to be wary of him. Kaiki attempts to hide the good things that he does by making them out to be bad or coincidences, likely because he often doesn't want the person on the receiving end of the kindness to feel as though they owe him more than what they've already been scammed out of. The persona that Kaiki creates for himself is also portrayed through the way he introduces himself, as Kai like a pile of clamshells and Ki like a dead tree, both things that are either gloomy or unimpressive. He himself, despite being driven by questionable ideals, often does good deeds. Other than a liar, Kaiki is a fake. He has repeatedly said that he doesn't know nearly as much about apparitions as someone like Oshino Meme, if anything at all, but this might also be a lie, or at least an exaggeration. Other than his knowledge, he makes those around him aware of his disbelief regarding the topic. But how could someone who knows little to nothing about a topic help so many people in relation to apparitions, as well as hurt so many people using these same apparitions that he seemingly knows nothing about nor believes in? Kaiki may not like to associate himself with apparitions, but he certainly seems to know a lot more about them than he lets on, which may have been a result of his experiences in college. He sees himself as a fake apparition specialist because of his lack of knowledge, but this is also something that he just says to further his front as a con man. Being considered a fake apparition expert of this caliber would be something that Kaiki would consider to be praise, and something that he likely would never say about himself. During their time in college, Kaiki, Meme, Gaien, Yozuru, and Taratsuru were posed with the question, what is the value of an indistinguishable fake? To which there are three answers. The fake is worth less than the original, worth the same as the original, or worth more than the original. Kaiki's answer to this is that the fake is more valuable than the original thing that's being imitated. This thought process may seem flawed if not completely incorrect because they would theoretically have the same value, right? Kaiki Deishu believes in this ideology, stating that, in its deliberate attempt to be real, it's more real than the real thing. This fake has put in effort, has deceived those around them, and changed themselves so that it can be the same as the real thing. That effort and history behind this indistinguishable fake makes it more real than the real thing because of how flawed it originally was. This ideology applies to Kaiki in the sense that he's a fake. Although he may not think so, let alone want it to apply to him, he is a con man who is fake. A man who can trick people into thinking that he can perform actions that he really can't. He is the fake that is more real than the real thing. Yes, Oshino Meme has experience and knowledge, but Kaiki, someone much less experienced in the field, was able to trick even one of the most dangerous apparitions simply because he advertised a curse as something it wasn't. Simply, apparitions are entities driven by people's belief in them. The stronger the fear and belief, the stronger the apparition. Thus, using this against Araragi, Shinobu, and Karen, he tricked them into believing that Karen really was imbued with the Queen Bee, strengthening the effects. This was his con, and although it wouldn't have lasted forever, because it was a fake, it did its job, showing that a fake can be equal to the real thing, if not more effective than the real thing because of the associated effects that come with it. Kaiki is this fake thing, this thing that can become just as real as an original. Yet he doesn't give himself credit for this, or for the effort that he goes through to achieve something. Kaiki can be considered hard on himself. Kaiki doesn't praise himself, nor does he think the things that he's doing are commendable, but he also doesn't think that they're all that bad. He is a man who does show emotion, but his emotion is rarely ever for himself. He looks over two kids making sure they're on the right path, neither of which are his own, simply because that's what he thinks is correct. He helps others through the only way he knows how. By being the bad guy in the situation. Kaiki is driven by a unique set of ethics. He finds no issue in scamming people out of their money because he thinks that money runs the world and they were the ones who came to him. But, despite his actions being considered scams, he attempts to aid people towards a solution that he sees fit. Kaiki's set of ethics doesn't stop him from doing something seemingly bad, such as selling curses to middle schoolers, but what it does stop him from doing is selling dangerous curses to these same middle schoolers. If nobody is being harmed greatly and or permanently by these scams that he performs, he often doesn't see an issue or why he shouldn't perform them. He truly is a man whose life is built upon the ideals and set of ethics that he's created for himself. To repeat, Kaiki is a terrible person. He's a con man, he's done terrible things, but behind those terrible things, those scams, and those appearances, there is a reason that he can justify. And that justification that we the viewers may not even agree with, is the truth that lies within Kaiki Deishu's lies.